welcome back to my channel. My name is Bridget Ekpo and you're watching Obodo TV, talking about harmful cultural practices. As you can see, I have my very nice and colorful Ankara on, but unfortunately I have to put my coat on top because it's really cold. So as beautiful as it is, I can't really show you guys the beauty of the dress. I decided to wear this dress today because I'm going to be talking about culture, and I'm very proud about our culture as Africans and as Nigerians. I think we have a very rich and colorful culture that we all should definitely be proud of. However, there are some elements of our culture that we should really we need to look at, because they actually are very risky and they pose a risk to the well-being of people, especially women and children. So I'm talking about harmful cultural practices in African cultures today. The first one, which we are all familiar with, is female gender mutilation, commonly called FGM or female circumcision. Now, the thing about African culture and traditions is that oftentimes we have these cultures and you never know how they start. You just hear that they are being passed from one generation to another, but nobody really knows how they begin, and nobody really challenges them because they say, oh, this is how we've always done it. And in this case, I believe strongly that FGM is one of those very harmful cultural practices that we still practice today. I know there are legislation now that have stopped it in Nigeria since 2015. Over here in the UK, it's actually a crime if you carry out gender mutilation on a female gender mutilation or female circumcision. Then you are liable to criminal offenses and probably going to jail. So that's one of the cultural practices that is really very terrible. In Africa, you go to all those interior areas, villages, people are still putting their children at risk. They are cutting off their mutilating their female gender parts, and this is really harmful. Some of them develop infections, they develop diseases, and some of them die because the environment of which these local surgeries are performed are really very unhygienic. The processes are very, it's just so clinically wrong and terrible for the girls. I know a couple of people who have enjoyed this circumcision, female circumcisions, and they tell stories about how horrible the experience was for them. When we hear about female gender mutilation, the stories that we hear about the origin it started as a way of controlling sexuality of female children or the girl child, which is actually something that is completely wrong, because at the end of the day, you're endangering these children's life, you're mutilating a very vital part of their female organ, and you're doing something that's going to have an impact on them for the rest of their lives. So we need to challenge these cultural practices and put a stop to it. So I'm quite happy that this has become illegal now in Nigeria. I don't know about other parts of Africa, but it's become illegal, and I hope that people are actually working the police and all the enforcement authorities are actually working to arrest these women or men that are carrying out these practices in 2017 and bring them to justice. But as much as that is important, the enforcement is important. We also need to educate our people. Education is quite important in this area because we need to tell them about the harm that it does, how it affects the female child when they grow up, the risk that they are exposing their children to. Because you still find that parents will take their children to the villages in this day and age for them to be circumcised for no reason, because they feel that, oh, it's our culture, this is how we do it. But the cultures and traditions that are wrong and are not helpful and putting people at risk, we need to do away with them. The way widows are treated in Africa generally is another cultural practice that is really dangerous, and it's actually it's something that we should condemn. I don't know, there's something about African cultures and traditions that I found that most of these practices are laid down by men, but the people that actually endure or suffer from them are women and children, like I said previously. So you find that when a man dies, these poor women are subjected to, when a woman loses her husband, it's probably one of the most difficult period in a woman's life. It's probably one of the most vulnerable time in a woman's life. So putting her through even more abuse, putting her through more all sorts of practices and all sorts of traditions, all in the name of mourning the husband. It has to stop. There are places in Nigeria where women, you have to shave your hair, they shave every part of your body, they give you either white or black cloths that you have to wear for 1 year, all in the name of mourning. I know it's good for you to mourn, but people mourn in different ways. We can make examples with the way white people do. They do mourn. They might not cry the way we cry in Africa by shouting and falling down and rising up and all that, but they still mourn when they lose, they grieve and they mourn their loved ones. So I think this practice is where women, in some cultures, you see they will lock the women up for 3 months, they cannot come out. My mom told me a story one time about how previously when husbands die, the women, they will lock them up in a room, they put them in a room, they'll feed them, and when they eat, they can't wash their hands. They cannot wash their hands. So those hands that you used to eat, if it's about you ate this morning, is the same hand you're going to eat fufu in the afternoon or whatever you're eating in the evening. That is, there's something so wrong in that. I know it's changed a bit now, but still, a lot of women are still going through a lot of abuses, all in the name of mourning. So, and the funny thing is that when a woman dies, the husbands, 6 months down the line, they are married. So where is the fairness in that? Nobody ever asks a man to mourn the wife. They may choose to mourn, they might not mourn. Nobody's going to query them and say, oh, why didn't you mourn? Or you have to wear red, or you have to wear black. Nobody's going to make them do that. So they have a choice. So if men have a choice about the way they mourn their wives, why can't women have a choice about the way they mourn their husbands? Why do you have to subject women to so many harmful practices, all in the name of mourning? People should be allowed to mourn the way they want to mourn. It doesn't mean that if you don't wear white or you don't wear black, that you didn't love the man, or that you're not sorry that the man is dead. People have different way of mourning. I don't think there's anybody that's going to feel the impact of a man's death like the wife, because this is somebody that you spend the greater part of your life with. So telling somebody, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, you must do this, you must wear this, you must shave your hair, you must cut your hair, you must not wear colored clothes, or you must wear white, or you must wear black, or you must stay in the village for 1 year, it is wrong. And we need to challenge those practices. Tribal marks. Do you explain somebody having a child, a young baby, and you take this baby to one native doctor or one witch doctor, and they will take a knife and put marks, cut their faces they cut their faces like this. If you haven't seen it before, I don't know if they do it in all African societies. I definitely know that they do it in Nigeria, where they will go and put marks on your face. They might put 3 here, they might put 6 here, they might put 5 here, depends on where you're from in Nigeria. At the time, in a different century, probably it was something that was necessary at that time for them to recognize as a form of identity. But today, in 2017, I don't think anybody needs some marks on their body to tell them where they come from. Everybody knows where they come from. We are in a modern day, we are in a civilized world now. And people might feel that it's still not happening, but it is actually, because I don't know if there's any legislation like FGM. I don't know if there's any legislation about it. And I really think that these first ladies are all over Nigeria that are dressed up and parading themselves as a politician's wife. I don't know what kind of charity they do, but this is one of them that somebody should definitely pick on. Somebody should definitely pick on, challenging this tribal mark and making it something that is criminal. Anybody that is caught trying to tear a baby's face with knife or with scissors or with whatever object, all in the name of tribal marks, that person should be locked up and that person should go to jail, because it is significant harm. In some cultures in Nigeria, even till today, a female child cannot inherit anything when their parents pass away. It's only a male child that has the right to inherit. And that's why you see in some cultures in Nigeria, people will do anything to have a male child, because they believe that if the woman doesn't have a male child, she has not started yet. That means she doesn't have a child yet. Because it's only male children that are considered as children, which is really absolutely wrong. That's why you see when a woman doesn't have a male child, she's worried, because she doesn't know if the husband is going to marry another wife, all in the name of having a male child. You don't know what's going to happen, or if the man dies, what's going to happen to his inheritance, because the female child cannot inherit. That is completely wrong. I don't think if a male child is able to inherit, then a female child should be able to inherit as well. I mean, I don't know the justification behind it or how this started. They'll tell you that, oh, you get married, you go to your husband's house and you change your name. So if you change your name, doesn't mean that you're not the child of your father anymore. So making, that's the reason why a male child it will continue to be celebrated in Africa. And that leads me to the next point, which is the preference of the male child over the female child. I think that's another very, very something that we need to challenge, because children are children. As a matter of fact, I believe strongly now that it's not only what a man can do, a woman can do better. When it comes to looking after parents, women, children, or the female child looks after their parents even more. They take care of their parents more. They are the ones that know what's happening with their parents. They're the ones that will care about them. They're the ones that will look at it. And some male children do it, but majority of the people that do it are the female children. So, and also saying that because someone is a female, they are not entitled to inheritance from their late loved ones. That's something that we seriously need to challenge. It is wrong. Child marriage. This is very, very common in the northern part of Nigeria. For some reason, some old Agbaya men just prefer children, which is something that is illegal. Actually, the age of marriage, to be able to give consent to marriage, is 18. So if a child is not old enough to vote, they are not old enough to drive, they are not old enough to give consent, why should you force that child to go and marry, for goodness sake? And the funny thing about this one is that the men who prefer to marry all these young girls, young children, their own children don't marry at such age. They don't. They send their children to Harvard, they send them to universities abroad to go and train, and then they marry at the right time that they should marry. But because they see people from very poor background, all these people from very poor background who are less privileged than them, they have no opportunity, they have no access to education, they have no access to a good life. So they will take their children and say they want to marry them. Where in the world would a child of 12, a female child of 12, 10, 15, old enough to give consent to a marriage? And then what happens? Is she ready for marriage? Is she ready for the commitment that comes with marriage? Because it's not just going to live with a man. We all know the added responsibility that comes about. Is she prepared to carry a child? Is a girl child that's 12 years old prepared to carry a child? She's a child herself. Her body is not developed. Her body is not formed yet to be receptive. It's not matured enough to carry a child. That's why you see these children, they have all sorts of diseases at the end of the day because their body is not developed yet. In this part of the world where we live, if you even as much as have the image of a child, a nude image of a child on your phone, it's a crime. It's a criminal offense. You will be put on the sexual offenses register. You'll be tagged a pedophile, and they will take you to court and you probably jail you. It is an offense. It's a criminal offense. You cannot do it. The age for which you can consent to marriage is 18. So in Africa, I think we need to wake up to how the rest of the world is moving and stop all this backward behavior of things that happened in the past when we didn't know. There's no one that can say today now they don't know that it's wrong to put a child in marriage. And those parents, some of them, I don't really blame them, because these are people who have no access to any education. They don't know any better. They just believe, oh, the man is trying to help me. He's trying to help my family. And the only thing they need from me is my child. So why can't I do it? She's growing. She's developed breast, so she's old enough to marry. It is wrong. We need to challenge that. Any Agbaya man that is old enough to be a grandfather that wants to go and carry a small child of 12 and 13 to marry is even a vile human being. Because you see all the girls that are grown, matured girls are everywhere in Nigeria and everywhere in Africa. They are not good enough for you. No, it's the child that is not developed yet, that have their future ahead of them, that should be offered education, that should be offered support to become something in life. That's the person you want to marry. That's the person you want to defile. That's the child that you want to ruin their life. And when they become ill, then you throw them out. You begin to call them witches. You begin to call them wizards. Then they are back to these poor parents again who are going to be suffering, looking after them. Then at the end of the day, what have you done? People need to just grow a conscience. All these men in the north that are marrying children, they need to grow a conscience. and to know that it is wrong. And the funny thing is that some of them are educated, they've been abroad, they've been everywhere, they're in politics, they're in very, very high position in society. But when it comes to this issue of marrying a child, then they forget who they are, they lose their moral compass, and they go and take a child and to marry, to add to their legion of wives, to become wife number 7. It is wrong, and we need to challenge it, because what is wrong is wrong. It's been your girl, Bridget Ekpo. Thanks for staying with me on this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. It's the red button down here. Follow me on all social media. My handle is Obodo TV. Thank you very much. Until I see you next time. Bye.